Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of our monthly webinar called the Cyber Pulse by the Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity. This is our monthly webinar where we host, speakers and leaders from different backgrounds of cybersecurity, and they get an opportunity to, speak on the topic of their choosing. So today's webinar, I'm sure is gonna be a thought-provoking session. But before we get into the introduction and the actual presentation, just a few housekeeping notes. Your audios and videos would be on silent. So in order to make we have an uninterrupted 1 hour session. This session is also recorded, so in case you missed it, those recording will be put on our YouTube channel. So in case your colleagues have missed it, it will be available on our YouTube channel as well. During the entire duration of the webinar, the Q&A session would be live. So make sure you ask all the questions, and we'll ensure that those questions are answered at the end of the webinar. So with this, I move on. I move to the part where I introduce our guest speaker today. Our guest speaker today is May Brooks-Kempler. She's a cybersecurity expert whose journey began in the 1990s, exploring game hacks and IRC chats, and has since evolved into a remarkable career spanning into the penetration testing, security architecture, and the leadership as a chief information security officer. Today, May is a strategic consultant. She's also a TEDx speaker. She's a podcaster, and also the author of a best-selling books, which is named Scams, Hackings, and Cybersecurity: The Ultimate Guide to Online Safety and Privacy. She also serves on the ISC2 board of directors and is also a certified CISSP and HCISPP instructor. May, welcome to our webinar. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited about this one.
Where it is you're joining us from?
I'm joining you from the UAE, from sunny Abu Dhabi, although I am wearing a sweater because in the house we always have the AC. So I'm in sunny Abu Dhabi, and it's a pleasure joining you all in Canada. And I'm guessing
Great.
most of you are in Canada, maybe some aren't.
Perfect. So what's the title of today's presentation, May?
So today I'm going to talk about AI risks that no one seems to be talking about, although they really should. So we'll talk a little bit about those regular AI risks because I come from cybersecurity. I'm a techie, I'm a geek, and I love AI. I love AI so much that about an hour ago, I decided that the presentation needs an upgrade. Why? I have no idea, but I decided that I want to create a new robot-like figure with AI that will accompany some of the slides here, and you will see them a bit later on. So I'm a big fan of AI, but I'm also a big risk risk strategist. So I'm looking at AI for the good, the bad, the evil. They're somewhere in between, and we'll talk about some of these things today.
Perfect, May. I'm really looking forward to it, and especially because I've seen your TEDx speeches. Those are really great, and also because I come from a non-technical background, and a lot of cybersecurity topics they absolutely fly over my head. This one I'm really looking forward to attend because I think I would also understand a lot of it. And with this, the stage is all yours. I would request you to share your presentation and
Yes, of
the stage is all
course.
yours, mate.
So you just tell me when you can see my presentation. Just making
Yes,
sure.
we can. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so as I said, I'm very excited to be here today because AI is an incredible opportunity. The promise here is immense. It has such incredible potential. However, just like I think almost anything, with great power comes great responsibility, and with great opportunities usually comes great risks. So in this presentation, I'm going to explore a little bit about how we're going to protect our sensitive data using AI, how we're going to protect our creative ideas, our copyrights. What are some of the AI risks that no one seems to be talking about? There are a few things that everyone is talking about, but some things that most people don't talk about. So these are the things that I want to explore today. But first, I will try to do a little poll because for some reason I thought we were using Zoom, and now I see that we're using Teams. So let's try and, with a quick show of hands, how many people here are using AI? So with a quick show of hand, how many people here are using AI? And I really hope that no one is using it to end a relationship. Again, I've actually seen a few of these. Okay, so I see that some people are using AI, and I will guess because some of you are academics, so I hope you're using it for academic purposes as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few slides. And I know that there are a lot of people that use AI, a lot of people who are afraid of AI. I will share with you, I wasn't planning to share it, but I will share with you that I'm currently working on my doctorate in business administration. And I talked to a friend of mine, she's also working on her doctorate. And I basically finished my literature review in a few weeks. It took me a few weeks. Yes, it was very busy. Yes, you have to dive in and read dozens and dozens of articles. But at the end, it took me a few weeks to review all those articles, to summarize them. And yes, I used a lot of AI in the process. It doesn't mean that I didn't read them. I did. But I used AI to organize them together, to put them in the right context and things like that. And when I was talking to my friend who also does her doctorate, she's doing a PhD, she's been working on her literature review for a few years. And I asked her why. I asked her, does she utilize AI? And she told me, no, she doesn't utilize AI because it's stupid and it makes mistakes. So I asked her, did you ever have a research assistant? She said, well, yeah, but it was always problematic because they didn't really know what I meant. Here's the problem. AI, ChatGPT, or any AI you prefer to use, is like a research assistant. It's not supposed to do the job for you. It's supposed to assist you. It's supposed to help you if you don't give it very clear instructions, just like with any assistant, not just in academia. If you have a personal assistant and you don't tell them what you need, they're not going to know what you need. So we have to be very vigilant about the instructions that we give AI. So yeah, I hope most of you are using AI, and the promise around AI is absolutely amazing. It can do such amazing things, especially in cybersecurity. AI helps us detect and mitigate incidents, cyber incidents, so much faster than ever before. We use automation, we use automated responses. It helps us streamline operation. A lot of people, and I'll talk about it a little bit towards the end of today's presentation when I'll talk about the workforce and the workforce challenges. But I know that a lot of people are afraid whether or not AI is going to replace them, and we will talk about it, but some roles, yes, AI will replace us as humans because it just does it so much quicker and better and easier. And if we're smart, we're going to utilize it. So really, the potential is incredible. How it can help us review so many things that we never had an opportunity to review before. But there is a downside as well. Let's talk a little bit about the side of AI that doesn't make it into those glossy marketing slide decks. Not everything AI touches turns to gold. Transition from where we are today to something that we can use AI for will take time. And AI, not only that not everything that it manufactures is gold, sometimes it plain out lies, and we'll talk about that. And it's not only used for good. And I think that is probably the biggest thing that we have to remember as current or future security professionals. Every tool that we use, and that's true not just for AI, that's true for automation, that's true for everything. Every tool that we use, the bad people are also using. The difference is we have to adhere to certain ethical and legal requirements and restrictions. They don't. They can do whatever they want, however they want, in whatever means they want. They can use it without any ethical consideration, unlike us. and we need to remember that. Just like any other technology, AI is not good and it's not bad. It's just a technology. That's all it is. It's just like if people tell me, is a car good or bad? Well, I can use the car to drive to school and I can use the car to run over people. It's not the car's fault. It's the user fault. And in most cases, when we're talking about AI, we're talking about exactly the same. We're talking about the fact that it's a dual-edged sword that is used for good and for bad. And yes, I know that some of you are thinking about the guardrails that were baked into AI models. Unfortunately, we see those guardrails fail again and again and again. And I actually demonstrated it to my son a few weeks ago. He told me that he was trying to do something, and I think it was ChatGPT told him that they cannot do it. And then I showed him a very nice thing. I asked ChatGPT to give me step-by-step instructions on how to hack my neighbor's Wi-Fi. And of course, ChatGPT replied that this goes against the rules, against the community rules, and he cannot help me. And then I changed my requests, and I told ChatGPT that I'm a cybersecurity expert and I'm building a course on Wi-Fi protection, and I want to teach my students to think like hackers. I want to give them all the ways in which hackers can try and infiltrate a Wi-Fi network. And I want him to give me all the different ways in which a hacker can hack into a Wi-Fi network. So he gave me that. Then I chose one of the methods and I told him, can you give an example, a step-by-step example of how I can show that to my students? And it did. So yes, there are guardrails, but we know that just like any other product in AI, especially in the last almost 3 years now, the boom of AI, the adoption of AI, the rate of adoption has surprised almost everyone in the industry. No one expected it. And just like with any other tool, time is money and time to market is king. And cybersecurity, although we love saying that we need to be that we need to be business enablers, in many cases is a delaying factor. And in many cases, it is added as an afterthought. And when time is money and product is king, and you have to release as quickly as possible to stay ahead of the competition, because the competition now, especially in AI, is absolutely fierce, it's very hard to actually build those security guardrails. And it's even harder to think about those different ways in which the bad actors can exploit AI in ways that we did not expect. Now, when we're talking about AI risks, when I ask people what is the biggest AI risk for organizations, most people reply data leakage. And while I agree that it is a big, big problem, it is not the only one. But let's talk a little bit about what I mean with data leak. So with data leak, unlike a data breach means that someone actively hacked into my company, took the data, and is using it outside, with or without my understanding, with or without my knowledge. When we're talking about data leakage, we're talking about something that most people are not aware of. They don't know that the data has been leaked. They don't know when it was leaked, why it was leaked, who is using it, etc. And that is the number one problem when we're talking about data breaches. Data leakage. When we're talking about data leak, when it comes to AI, first and foremost, let's talk about the obvious one. People who are using external AI tools with permission or without permission and accidentally leak data. They didn't mean to. Most people don't want to harm their organizations. And that is something that many professionals, many security professionals, don't take into account. Yes, one of the biggest risks in cybersecurity is the internal threat. Someone inside my organization that already has permissions and decides to harm my company. Against this threat, it's almost impossible to protect because they already know where we're vulnerable. They're already trusted users in the organization. So I'm not saying that we're not going to try to detect them. I'm not saying that we're not going to try and reduce that risk. But I'm saying that is usually not the biggest risk. The biggest risk when it comes to internal users is things that they didn't mean to do. It's the mistakes. Today, over 85%, some cases say even 95% of all cybersecurity breaches involve the human factor. Almost all of them are caused by mistake. Not people who meant to cause harm, people who used something that they didn't, who clicked a link that they shouldn't have, who installed an app that they shouldn't have, etc. When we're talking about data leak, and I'll talk about a few examples a bit later on, we're talking about the usage of, for example, AI tools. And people ask AI tools various information, and they don't think about the fact that this information is now becoming public property. When we're talking about data leakage, even if we use only internally approved tools, what happens when our third-party suppliers are using their own AI tools? Maybe they're using public AI tools without protection, without considering privacy. So that is a big problem. If, for example, I installed a business intelligence tool, a BI tool, and that BI tool is used to monitor and hopefully perfect my organization, my operations, to allow me to gain additional data, additional understanding, etc. How do they monitor the tool? What data do they take? If I create a new playbooks and new scenarios and things like that in the system, what prevents the vendor from taking these upgrades that I created and adding them as an update to all existing customers, meaning that what I did to enhance the usage of a system in my company is suddenly used by someone else in other companies, and I might lose my competitive advantage due to that. So that is one side of data leakage. But I want to talk about another side of data leakage that most people don't even talk about. What about internal data leakage? I'm sure most of you have heard of the least privilege principle. The least privilege principle means that every person has the least amount of privileges that they need to run to do their jobs. But there is another side, the need to know principle. Need to know has nothing to do with privileges. You can be an admin or you can be a regular user. But when I'm saying need to know, the question is not about who I am in the organization, what I do, how much they trust me, what is my clearance level. No. The only question here is, do I need to know that data, and why and when? For example, I can have top secret clearance in my organization let's say, in the finance department. It doesn't mean that I should have visibility to things that are going on in the marketing department. And I'll give you an example that is easier to understand. Let's say I'm working for, I don't know, I'm working in the army and I'm part of the Navy. And I have top secret clearance in the Navy. It doesn't mean that I have a need to know to see secret data in the Air Force. Not because I can't. If I will transition from the Navy to the Air Force, I'll probably keep my top secret clearance, and then I will have the need to know and see secret and top secret data in the Air Force. But right now, if I'm in the Navy, I have no need to know. So these are things that in AI, unfortunately, happen a lot. Even when I install an internal AI tool that I bought and I purchased and I integrated it into my systems, most internal LLMs do not include need to know protection. So they have permissions and they have clearance, but no one has actually looked at who needs to know this data. It's not baked in. And today it is one of the things that a lot of startups around AI security are working on, trying to find a way to integrate that need to know that is being used in access control for years. How are we going to integrate it into AI? Because let's say I ask a question and I'm a junior data analyst, and I will ask the LLM a question. I might get answers based on things that the LLM knows because it also has visibility to data from the CEO and the executive leadership team, etc. And I'm not supposed to know that. And in internal corporations, that can be a huge problem. I'll give you two examples for that. One, when we're talking about mergers and acquisitions, If you talk to any M&A lawyer and ask them what is the number one killer of M&A deals, they will say early disclosure. Because if it gets out before the deal is signed, usually it will blow up. Now, people who work in corporations and were involved in M&A processes know that usually there's a handful of people who are involved in the consideration of that transaction. They're all under NDA, and they all know and understand the meaning of the data that they're exposed to. However, if someone outside that internal circle sees that data, they have no context. They don't understand that this data is privileged. They don't understand that it's secret. And then they'll go out at night, sit with a few friends, have a couple of beers, and tell them, oh, did you know that my company is about to merge with that company? All of a sudden, a journalist was sitting behind them, hearing that conversation, and the next day it's all over the financial newspapers. So this is one example, because if people don't have the right context and they don't even know that this is privileged information, they're not going to treat it as such. So actually, I will say with this example, I might give you another one later on. So data leak is not just what happens out from my organization outside, it's also what happens inside. Even when we're talking about what happens outside, let's say that I'm now working on a project, let's say a marketing project, a big marketing project that I want to promote. And I create it and I ask ChatGPT for answers and I sit around and ping-pong it, etc. It will give me a list. And let's say that I implement that marketing plan, which, by the way, I definitely encourage you to use AI tools to create, for example, marketing plans, but don't just copy paste them, because that will be worthless. And will it be worthless? Because AI doesn't make up anything. It's not creative. It can be creative, but only depending on the prompt that it's been given. So if it gives me a plan, it basically bases it on someone else's plan, things that it already got from other places. So let's say I will get that marketing plan and I will start implementing it and running it with it. And 2 weeks before I start the campaign, my biggest competitor has started the same campaign. Why? Because they already used AI. They already generated it a few months before me. And that is what the AI based the responses on. So these are things that we have to consider when we're talking about AI and how we use the data and who uses it and how it leaks internally and externally, and can we even trust it? Those are exactly the things that we should be aware of. And it goes back to the ethical side. It is an absolute minefield. Who even owns AI generated content? Yes, I know that there are a lot of ideas and emerging legislations around who owns the copyrights of AI generated content. I mean, I had the idea, I used AI to help me generate that. So is it mine? Is it not mine? As was mentioned in the beginning, I'm an author. I authored several books. I didn't have to go through a registration process to ensure the copyrights on my book, because I created it. In every book, if you open any book, you'll see in the first or second page, all copyrights are reserved to either the publication or, if it's self-published, so the author. But with AI, it's not that simple, because yes, it creates things, but it creates things based on my prompt. So if someone uses a very similar prompt, they might get something very similar. So how will I prove it's my idea? So it's about copyrights. It's about, since we're in an academic setting, what about plagiarism? Can I use AI-based content? I said before that I'm using AI when I'm doing my research for my doctorate, but I'm not letting it write for me. I'm letting it help me. So if I have an idea and I want to write it down, so I will write a few sentences and tell it, can you help me rephrase that in a nicer way, in a more academic base, or vice versa. I can actually take the transcript from one of the interviews I conducted and ask it, can you provide me 5 key takeaways from that interview that I conducted with another cybersecurity professional? So you can definitely use AI, but you have to be very careful about what you expect from it and what are the moral and ethical considerations, what you can protect, what you can't protect, what you can share with it, what you can't share with it. there are a lot of things that you have to take into consideration. And also, it's a question of trust. I start with saying that AI is not creative, but sometimes it definitely makes things up. It definitely lies. And we've all seen the AI photos that it generated an AI photo and a person had 3 arms, 6 fingers. A giraffe had an elephant trunk, etc. We don't always feel that we can trust it, and rightfully so, because it doesn't really make up stuff, but it confuses things, which raises a lot of questions around what is real and what is fake. What is AI bias? Can I trust what AI tells me? One of the best things that I can tell you about how to avoid this misinformation that you get from AI is ask it to give you sources. When I started working on my literature review, I asked ChatGPT, and I have my own, it's not ChatGPT, it's my own LLM that I built basically. But I asked him to provide me a list of 10 articles that might be relevant. I gave him the timeline where it would be published, etc. And then I see the first, he gives me a list, and I'm looking at the first one, and the title looks amazing. And there's a link, and I click the link, and it's broken. And I look at the second one, and I'm saying, okay, that is also a very good article. Let's read this one. And I click the link, and it again failed. The reason was very simple. It was making stuff up, things that I can look for. Well, I don't need help thinking about what I can search for. I know what I should be searching for. I asked you to help me find actual articles. As soon as I told him, find actual articles, it did. But that is an example of the fact that we cannot trust what we see with AI. AI-generated information can be real and can be fake. It can be biased and can be based on what I'm asking it and how I'm asking it. If I will ask a prompt, I have an idea for a new talk about AI risks. I'm very excited about this one. I want to create a presentation about AI risks that no one is thinking about. What do you think? It will answer, oh, that is such a wonderful idea. You have to create that presentation. Why? Because I told him I'm very excited about it. But if I will ask him exactly the same question, basically, I have an idea for a talk about AI risk that no one is talking about. I'm not sure whether it will resonate with my target audience. This is my target audience. These are the things that I thought about talking about. What do you think? What are some of the considerations I should take into account when designing this presentation? Or do you have other ideas for me that might resonate better with my target audience? All of a sudden, it won't say, oh, this is such an amazing idea and you're incredible. It will probably tell me, okay, this can work, but what about this, that, and the other? So trusting AI is problematic, and trusting AI-based content can also be problematic, which leads to AI-powered fraud. Today, it is so easy to create personalized scams, personalized phishing attacks, personalized social engineering attacks using things that go well beyond the traditional email, from voice generated, video generated, and we've seen it time and time again. It's not just phishing 2.0, it's phishing on steroids. The tools are incredible. And unfortunately, just like we use them for good, usually, people use them for bad. And we have to think before we trust. And I tell that to every person I talk to. I tell that to my kids. I tell that to my colleagues. When you see something, think before you trust. When you hear something, think before you trust. In the past, we had very clear tattletales telling us that this email, for example, is fake. We looked at the from, so who sent the email. We looked for, do they have our name in it? Are there any grammatical mistakes or misspells or things like that, which helped us identify that email as a fraud email or a phishing email. Today, it's so easy to create real emails that look exactly like real emails. Actually, today I tell people, if you get a message and it has a misspell, it was probably created by a human, because ChatGPT doesn't make such mistakes. So that actually enhances the credibility if it has mistakes, which is, it sounds counterintuitive, but that is the current reality. And I will share with you something that happened to me, and hopefully this will help you think before you trust in the future. A few months ago, I got a text message from my son. Again, my son, today's the star of this presentation. I have 3 kids. So my son sent me a text message in the middle of the day, something like 12 p.m. Mom, I just sent you a code to your email. Please send it to me. Like, yeah, sure. Nice, right. Now, it came on WhatsApp from my son's phone number. I was like, seriously, Harry, you've been to maybe a thousand of my talks. You helped you helped read the book. Like, you read it a few times. You should know better. How was his account hacked? And of course, around the same second, I saw an email come into my email with a code to an app. So I called him. I knew he was on break, so I called him, and Harry, I think someone hacked your WhatsApp. No, Mom, I just sent you a code. Can you please send it back to me? So I asked him a personal question. And I'll give you the personal question I asked, and I will never, ever use the same question again. So I asked him who was his first martial arts instructor. And he gave me the name, and that was it. I will never, ever use the same question again, because I already shared this example on several talks. And so as far as I'm concerned, if a hacker wants to impersonate my son, they might try and find that data beforehand, and then they will ask, and then they will know how to reply to that question. So I will never, ever use that question again, but I will use something else. I might ask him, what did we have for dinner yesterday? What's the name of the movie we saw last week? And if you follow the news, you may have seen something very similar that happened to Ferrari a few months ago. A fraudster tried to manipulate them into sending him a lot of money, joined a Zoom call using an AI-generated image, an AI-generated avatar. And to be honest, I was thinking about using an avatar today. I decided not to, basically because I'm still not that happy with my new avatar that I created. But today you can create an avatar, and someone like myself, there's a lot of videos, a lot of audio samples of me on the internet because I have my podcast and I've done the TEDx and I do a lot of public speaking. So there are a lot of videos of me, but you don't actually need a lot. You need a very short sample. And today, unfortunately, hackers and scammers are using that to create AI-generated avatars, use a voice sample to create a duplicate, and they will call your parents saying, Mom, I'm in trouble. I was mugged. I need you to wire me $200 for me to get home. And it will sound completely like you. So when I say think before you trust, does this make sense? Are they using, for example, if my real name is not May, my real name is Meital. But if someone calls me Meital, I'm automatically suspicious because people don't call me that unless something is wrong. Like if my dad calls me and say Meital, I will say something is wrong here. So does people talk in the same tone that they usually do? Are they using the same words? And in the case of Ferrari, that's exactly what tipped them off. That scammer who joined the Zoom call was trying to get the CFO to wire a large sum of money to him, pretending he was the CEO. He used images and videos of the CEO to create a duplicate avatar. Because he used phrases that were not, it did sound like the voice sounded like the CEO, but it wasn't his words. And when you know someone, you know how he speaks. So the CFO asked him, remind me, you recommended a book to me a few days ago. Do you remember the name? And the scammer hung up because he realized that he was made. So sometimes having a little bit of awareness, thinking about it, thinking before we trust is huge. It helps us prevent bias. It helps us detect fake news. It helps us detect fake facts. I've seen so many fake facts on AI that is absolutely ridiculous. That is another thing that so many people are not thinking about. And they're actually basing business plans on fake information, which is a shame. So always fact check. Make sure where did it get the data from. I think today it's a little bit easier with things like DeepSeek, but still. One of the biggest threats that everyone has always talked about in IT is shadow IT. Having programs, having applications installed in the organization that IT management is not aware of. With AI, the threat is even greater. When we're talking about shadow AI, it's even greater because with IT, I could basically block people from installing things on their devices. But with AI, that most tools are online, I can't do that. I can't just block it. Yes, I can try and block it on the firewall. Okay, but what happens when people go home? What happens with their phones? People don't even think about, yes, let's say that you blocked Gemini and ChatGPT and Claude and whatever, you blocked it. I can't use it from the network. What prevents me as an employee to take my phone, take a picture of a document, put it on the app, on the AI app on my phone, and also take this paragraph and rephrase it in another way? Nothing. And AI, that will probably be something that the user is aware of the fact that they shouldn't be doing that. But in many cases, people are not even aware. People don't think about that risk. The challenge with AI is, or with explaining the risk of AI tools, is that most AI tools are there to help. They increase efficiency, they help us do things faster, easier, more focused, which is great. And people are fascinated by those new opportunities. So they will try this tool and that tool and this tool and that tool without considering, are they leaking confidential information, without considering bias, without considering the fact that it might not be allowed in your organization. And I gave you the example of M&A before, and I will give you another example that is related. As I said, in M&A, the kiss of death is always early disclosure. A while ago, I was consulting to a company that was working on a big M&A transaction, and we had a conversation with one of our lawyers, one of the junior associates in the law firm that we were working with. And they joined the conversation, and suddenly I see an AI companion. So I was very nice about it, and I was like, wow, what is this AI companion? I don't know this one. Is it good? Do you recommend it? Oh, do all the lawyers in your firm use it? Oh, it's only you. Wow, amazing. So basically, how did you connect it? Did you connect it to your corporate email? Oh, you couldn't. Oh, so it's connected to your personal Gmail. So you want to tell me that everything we're talking about here in a super confidential conversation is being transcribed and sent to your personal Gmail? Yeah, I don't see a problem here, except for this huge problem. So when we're talking about shadow AI, it's a huge problem because people do want to have those tools. They do want to use the tools. They want to learn from them. And when we don't allow them as professionals, as security professionals, and we say, no, 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 don't use it, it's going to harm the organization, and we don't give them alternatives, and we don't explain why it is a problem, then they will push back because in reality, AI is making our lives easier. And saying, let's block all AI, I think is extremely silly. I don't think it can hold water when we're talking about long term. I think that organizations that will not use AI will stay behind and will lose their competitive advantage. So we want to move ahead with the technology. However, while we want to move ahead, we want to know what we're facing. We want to know what risks we're taking on. And those are exactly the things that we should be super aware of. So AI, shadow AI, it's a huge, huge and growing problem. People are playing around all the time. I hope all of you know there's an AI for that. It's one of my favorite websites on the internet because basically it puts together all the AIs that exist. And I tell them, oh, I want an AI for, I'm moving to a new house next week. So I asked him, give me a list of all free AI tools for home design. So it did. It was super easy. I take a picture, I tell it, this is the style I like, this is how I want, this is my budget, I live in the UAE, and it gave me proposals. You should buy this rug from this company, this sofa from this, and it's amazing. Not all of them are that good, but some of them are amazing. So there's an AI for that is amazing, and people will use it. And if we'll try to block them, they will find other ways of using it, because at the end of the day, unlike IT that I can maybe control and tell them, no, if you want time management tool, we're using Jira and Trello. You can use these. You can't use Asana, even though you like it. But with AI, we don't always have an alternative. So we should try and think as professionals how we can enable them and empower them to use that new technology without introducing new risks, or with as little risk as possible. Now, I promise that I will talk about the workforce and talk about the elephant in the room. Will AI replace you or not? And I know that many people listening in this conversation are students or people in relatively junior roles. And I'm sure that this is something that you're concerned with. Will AI replace you? Will I find a job when I graduate? Will I find somewhere to work? How will I grow in the industry, etc.? I'm not going to say there's an easy answer, because there is none. Yes, as I said before, some low-level roles will be replaced by AI and automation. Absolutely. But there are skills that AI cannot replace. Critical thinking, strategic thinking, ethics. These are things that AI cannot do. Creativity, it cannot do. AI is only as creative as we ask it to be, as the prompt that we built. If we focus on getting the whole picture of understanding cybersecurity, not just from a very narrow perspective, and it doesn't matter if that narrow perspective is, I want to be a hacker, so all I'm focused on is how to hack whatever thing I want to hack, or I'm a programmer and I'm into AppSec, so I only know AppSec. No, you need to have a bigger picture. And I know that people starting out say, well, May, you've been doing this for 20 years, but what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to be curious. You're supposed to learn. You're supposed to think of what other things are relevant in cybersecurity. What is relevant for you personally? What is relevant for your organization? What is relevant in different industries? Try and read. One of the things that I always ask students in cybersecurity is, who here, I'm talking about more senior students, I teach to the CISSP and things like that, and I always ask people who has an MBA. And people, there's always someone clever asking me, did you mean a degree in computer science? No. It's a great, don't get me wrong, having a degree in computer science is great, but that's not what you need to be a leader. To be a leader, you need to have broader understanding. So absolutely go and study computer science. We definitely need people from computer science going into cybersecurity. But don't neglect the bigger picture. Try and think about strategies that will help you grow your career. Think about where you are today and where you want to be in 1 year, in 3 year, in 5 year time. And then reverse engineer it. Let's say you're just starting out and you don't even have your first job yet. Great. No one said that experience is only paid experience. Start reading, start writing, start exploring ideas, join open source projects and contribute to them, volunteer to do various projects in your university, in places you work with, etc., and gain experience. You don't need permission to lead. You don't need permission to learn. You just need to take the initiative. And the people who will take that initiative will never be replaced by AI. The people who will stay very narrow-minded and only focused on very narrow things, yeah, those things can probably be done better with AI. Technology is not the enemy. And AI is a tool, but it's not a teammate. We use it. We need to balance AI usage with controls. We need to think about how to make informed decisions. And I will be the last person to tell you, do not use AI, because I use it all the time. As you can see in this presentation, I use it all the time. I created this nice robot and everything. But we need to think about how AI can work for us, not against us, how it can enhance our abilities and not jeopardize us even further. When we decide to add a new AI tool, always try to think about the other side. How can this tool be exploited by someone who wants to do something bad? How can it be used for evil purposes? And it's a muscle. Thinking like an adversary is a muscle, and a muscle that you can learn. For those listening who are serious about building a career in cybersecurity, I do encourage you to learn about what makes hackers hack. I'm not talking about the psychology of it, although that is definitely something that you should learn about and explore. But really, read books about hackers or watch videos or podcasts or whatever, but try to get into that mindset. Try and look at something and say, if I was here to do something bad, how would I do it? Then you really get into that cybersecurity mind frame and you can really start protecting. So I want to do a quick reality check. Things that you can do now to hopefully use AI for good and not let AI just steal your data and take it away and use it against you. So let's start with with the personal aspect. When you share something with AI, and I think that's actually true for anything you share online, no matter if it's on AI, on social media, or anything else. Think about what will happen if this goes into the wrong place. Can it hurt me? Can it hurt my company? Can it hurt my friends? Can it hurt my family? If so, how? What do I do to mitigate that risk? When I talk to people, usually to people in high school, and I do a lot of public speaking, volunteering with schools and high schools around online safety. I always tell people, teens, when you take a picture, not when you share it, not when you send it to your friends or your family or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, when you take a photo, think about how would you feel if that photo would get to your grandparents. If you're happy with your grandmother seeing this photo, take it, enjoy. You do you, enjoy yourself, everything's fine. It's your life. But if this photo is not something you'll be comfortable sharing with your grandparents, don't take it. Just don't take it. And if data that you share with AI is not something that you're comfortable, that your potential employer will know, don't share it with AI. If you're not comfortable with your spouse to know, don't share it with AI. And again, what I'm saying about AI is just 10 times more important than what I used to say about social media. But actually, those are both the same principles. Thinking about our digital footprint, what we leave behind us, how people are using our data, how organizations are using our data against us is crucial. So that's on a personal level. On an academic level, again, I'm using AI all the time. I'm doing research with it. I'm reviewing things with it. It helps me do my research so much quicker, but I'm using it very responsibly. I will never, ever take something, not just in academia, in work as well. I will never take something that I created with AI, copy and paste it. It will have iterations upon iterations. I will review it again and again and again. And even the last iteration, before I hit send, before I hit publish, I will read it again. I will make sure that everything there is accurate. I will never trust the data without verifying it. So, as I said, think before you trust. And for those who are working in an organization, think about the policies, the trainings, the tools that you can use to review where you're exposed. A talk like the talk that we had right now, how many people, and I don't know how many people here already work for organizations, but how many people have never received any training about how to use AI safely? So those are the things that we have to consider when using AI. If we don't question how we use AI today, we may not like the answer that we get later on. Our reliance on AI is getting so great that we will not be able to turn back. And honestly, I wouldn't want us to turn back. As I said, I love AI. I think it's a game changer. It helps in so many different ways. As a content creator, I can tell you that whenever I record a podcast, one of the things that we're always challenging for me is after finishing recording the podcast and editing the episode and finding a title and everything, writing down the summary and then creating the post, etc., used to take me a long time because sometimes I would record and edit on one day and do the publishing a totally different day. Today it's easy. I have the transcription automatically. I put it in my own personalized LLM and it creates the title, it helps me create the summary, the posts, etc. Again, not copy paste, review, read. It took me a very long time to train my LLM to speak in my voice. I gave it another example and another one and another one, and it gave me a text and I refined it again and again and again. And when I was happy with the text after I posted it, whether it's on my blog or my LinkedIn or wherever it was, I took the final text and took it back to the LLM and told him, this is what I actually used. And I did it again and again and again until it learned how to speak in my voice. So I want you basically to stay curious, not to trust everything you see, to be a little bit concerned, to be a little bit suspicious, but most importantly, to be curious, to ask questions, to never be afraid of asking questions and learning more. And I think the biggest thing that anyone can say is, I don't know. And I don't have all the answers, but I keep learning. So for me, a day without learning is a day wasted. And I encourage you all to take this and start implementing lifelong learning, not just as a concept, as a real practice in your lives, not just for AI. But by the way, AI is a great tool that can help you. I use AI to summarize the day's news in cybersecurity, again, saving a lot of my time. So now I hope that I managed to get you a little bit concerned, a little bit optimistic, a little bit pessimistic, a little bit challenged, and most of all, curious. And now we have a little bit of time left for questions. So if you want to ask me a question, challenge me, challenge something I said, ask me about something that I didn't say, let's open up the discussion.
Thanks a lot, May. That was really insightful. I certainly, look forward to sharing, some artificial intelligent pictures with my, grandparents and, see their take. Uh, Again, we just have last few minutes, so let's see how many questions we can take. I'll just straight away jump into the Q&A section. So first question is, with the AI adoption, happening across the organization, what's one AI risk you think that organization are still not able to understand?
Need to know. Most organizations implement AI tools and they don't think about the need to know. So, and it's impossible to, even if I have the best AI security tool out there, if as an organization, and unfortunately, most organizations do not have a fully implemented real DLP, data leak prevention system. Now, data leak prevention, a lot of people think, oh, I will just buy a DLP tool and turn it on and that's it. A DLP tool, yes, it can do things out of the box. For example, you can find social security numbers and credit card numbers and things like that, patterns that are well known that will be out of the box. But the only way that a DLP tool can work is if I tell him this data is sensitive, this data is privileged, this is top secret, etc. I need to feed a DLP system. And it is exactly the same with AI tools. If I don't tell the internal LLM that I'm using, if I don't tell him this folder the data in this folder is restricted. Only people who have access to this folder can know anything. It will just take this folder, put it in its brain, and when someone that does not have permission to this folder asks a question, that will be some of the data that will inform the answer. Again, causing sensitive data leakage in the company.
Understood. Understood. Interesting perspective. And maybe this we come to the last question of our webinar today. You just very briefly mentioned that the speed at which AI is growing is very fast. Given that landscape, how do you see the roles of leaders changing? Like roles of the cybersecurity heads or the data heads or the CISOs. How do you see that their role would be changing?
Oh, what a wonderful question, and one that I'm always contemplating. I think that's not just because of AI, but AI is definitely a contributor. I think that the biggest change is how, in the past, cybersecurity was a very technical field. And we sort of assumed, and I assumed the same before I became a CISO. For many years, I thought I'm not worthy yet to be a CISO because I was very technical, but I was never the most technical person in the room. And I think that today the industry has changed, and I think that AI is a big contributor to that, that people understand more and more that what we need in cyber leadership are people, as I alluded to before, with broader perspective that don't just understand the technological problem, because cybersecurity is not a technical problem. People think that technology will solve the cybersecurity problem, don't understand the problem, and don't understand the solution. As I said, 85 to 95% of all security incidents involve the human factor. We need to understand people, we need to understand business, we need to understand communication. So those are some of the crucial skills that I think anyone who wishes to become a cybersecurity leader needs to work on. That is something that I work a lot with my students, with my Cybermania Pro community. We work a lot on soft skills that are harder for people like myself, by the way, to do. Like, if someone would have told me 12 years ago that I will ever be a public speaker, I said, no, me? Never. But that's something that you can learn and you can get better. So I think that those soft skills and that broader understanding, that broader vision is super important for security professionals today.
I certainly agree with the fact that there is a human side to cybersecurity, and especially the leadership needs to change in those respects. That majority of your risk is coming from the fact that a human being made a mistake, which led either to an AI attack or a cyber attack. With this, we come to the end of the webinar. Thank you for sharing your insight, your experience, and your time with us. I certainly enjoyed hosting you on this webinar. So thank you for that. And to our viewers, I would say, stay safe, stay curious, and use artificial intelligence with a bit of skepticism, but use it for your growth and productivity. So with this, this is the end of the webinar, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you all. Bye.